Hi everyone, welcome to my computer room again. You'll see in front of you a blank slate, and we are tackling a new project again. Woohoo! So the last time I wasn't exactly happy with how quickly I moved through things. I don't actually think I accomplished a whole lot in the time. But it's a bit unnatural for me to do this in front of a webcam, so I'll just have to get used to it. So because of that, I think it would be a good idea to do something I'm a little more comfortable with. So I am going to go back to web development. I have here Bootstrap, which we will use. And I think what I'm going to do is build something really quick with a similar approach. So I'm just going to look at APIs, see what makes sense, and try and build a project out of it. So let's see, NBA stats. That's interesting. Books, connect. Oh, this is a popular one that there's probably 1,000 different applications already using it, but oh, you know what? I think one of these New York Times ones would be great if one of these New York Times ones would be great to build a short little single page applications for. So let's see. No, not this one. I'm just jumping all over the place here. New York Times, most popular. Let's go with an example. 3. Let's try this out. Let's see. What is the newest thing in food in the last, I think, 30 days is what it... Of course, I gotta sign in. So this isn't a truly public API. Let's find something more. More to the point. You're looking at news. Oh, that's what I'm looking for. No authentication. Okay. Music genre generator, interesting. Sentiment. Actually, code review. Huh. Okay. COVID might be an interesting one. It is quite timely, but... Oh, wasn't there a bunch on NASA? Ooh. Wait a minute. This is something quite relevant to what I do day to day. So, okay, I suppose that is something I can do, but the returns will be pretty ugly. But what I was looking for was NASA. Yes, they have API, so let's browse this again. You know what? Let's go with the astronomy picture day. I think that is very awesome. Okay, let's go with this one and build a simple Bootstrap website to take advantage of it. So, let's just get started right here. This HTML. Oh, look at that. They have a starter template for us, so let's go with their starter template instead. Alright, I will just save this off screen. Just 1 second, I gotta navigate through my mess of documents. What was the name of that? A photo pod. Okay. Oh, I am sorry, I gotta do this off screen again. Just make sure that this is available. Okay. Perfect. We are in business. So this is the hello world. For those of you who are not familiar with HTML, it is a very simple markup language. You just have opening tags and closing tags with these kind of brackets. I'm sure there's a better name for them, but you'll have things like title, H1 is header, and for example, you might have P for paragraph, hello world, lorem ipsum. Okay, and if we save it, one of the cool things about working with web applications is you can just refresh and see the text right there. So let's look quickly at what we can do here, what kind of components we have. There's a card, so it seems to me like an obvious idea is just to have an image for each card, or maybe a carousel. So what do we want to do? Do we want to show like just a giant page of many small icons, something like Instagram, and then you click in and it enlarges? Or do we want just kind of a cool page highlighting like 5 or 6 images and with a header, some description? I think I'm going to go with that. I think what I'm going to do is do something of a header, title, one of these, and just do some kind of cool text underneath. I just want to do something super simple, but let's copy and paste this right in here so you can kind of see what the idea is. These are not linking to actual images, so we get the ... but it's going to take the URL for these images, so okay. How would it look? Okay, so there we go, we have something. So the idea here is we're gonna have, let's go a header bar, something like what they have. And then just some text, much like this hello world, maybe move the lorem ipsum underneath all of this, and choose a less garish and more relevant image. So what we're going to almost certainly have to do is write a bit of Java. Well, we're going to have to if we want to take advantage of the API. So we can do it the really ugly basic way, or we can do I think it was called Axios JavaScript. So this will help. Yeah, this is a package to kind of help make it a lot easier to get information. Oh, actually, maybe that's a bad idea. I think, yeah, Bootstrap still uses jQuery, so we can actually use, so instead of importing a whole new package, we've already imported jQuery. So we can use jQuery instead, something like this. Okay, so I have been mumbling for a bit, and I think I'm just gonna stop talking for a bit. Okay, so I think we are at a point where this is looking pretty good. So you'll see that it is a pretty simple web page, actually. I think we can definitely bump up the design if we had to, so we can choose probably a better font. Personally, I'd try and do some sort of graphics on Photoshop to make the background come alive a little bit more, but a simple kind of plain gray background does just fine for me. I like how the colors are working. The black background, the kind of white borders, it looks pretty good. Basic functionality, if we refresh page, it grabs, let's see. Maybe we can make that a bit better. That's 13 images. We can make it a little less random, so so we now have 4, 12, 15 images. That makes a lot more sense. Pretty simply, once you refresh a page, it grabs the last 15 days worth of images. You'll see, if we click one, this is on the 5th. This is done asynchronously, so this Ajax call is done, and when it finishes, when it successfully connects to the API, it adds the image to the end of the list. So you'll see that it doesn't go day by day by day. It just starts putting it onto the list as soon as it loads. Depending on your design choice, that may make a lot of sense. I think some people might be a little confused why this isn't today and this isn't yesterday, and so forth. So the benefit of this method is that it seemingly loads faster. So let's say you're on a very slow connection, it might load image by image by image by image, and so you don't want to wait for if there's a really large image today, even though you finish fetching this one, it can't be put on the list until you finish downloading yesterday. So this will make it seem to load a little faster. You'll get content on the page quite quickly. At the bottom, we have this load more button that will just fetch another 5 images, and another 5 images, and another 5 images, and you'll see you kind of just go down further and further back in time. We also have a date picker here. Pretty simple. If we want to go July 2020, and on the 15th, show me a picture, and it will pop up with that date's picture. So Comet Neowise over the Swiss Alps. This is a really, really beautiful picture. There is a description, we have a copyright notice, and you can close. And so for each of these images, you can click into it, pops up a modal. That's kind of a in-page pop-up. And of course, you get the title of the image, you get the date, you get the photo and the text. There are lots and lots of ways we can make this better. I would, if I had more time and patience, I'd probably convert this into something more human readable. I'd probably deal with the not specified text a little better. But I think this is fine. It's very functional. We get the point of it. I had a little bit of a problem you saw earlier making sure that this date shows up every single time. So for the longest time, when I clicked this image, for example, it might pick up this image's data. So that was a bit of an annoyance. Another interesting thing about NASA's API is that they have a standard definition and a high definition of those photos. So here we are loading standard definitions so that it kind of loads faster. And when we click into it, you get the higher definition image. I think another kind of step we could take is maybe we can click this image, get it full screen, a dedicated page for it, but it is what we have. I want to show you really quickly that this is a responsive website. Bootstrap handles that really, really well. All of their classes are already built so that they look not great, but look decent on really small phones. This is a resolution of 360 by 640, so it's an old and tiny phone. I think what's happening is some of my offset isn't really done well. Maybe centering in the column. I'm not going to make that change now, but I might after this video. But, if we go to a more modern phone, same problem. But it will make sure that we get that it scrolls properly. So if you have a small phone, it just goes down the list one at a time. If we have something like an iPad, you'll see the various columns, and of course on a full screen you'll get that full experience. So I'm going to quickly walk through my code. I'm not going to go through this line by line, but the intention is to kind of walk you through what it is. Every HTML web page has a few things in the header. This is to make sure that you know that it's an English HTML page. The head gives you a bit of metadata. So this is the encoding of the text. This, I believe, is something from Bootstrap. It just kind of sets out how the screen width works. We are importing a style sheet. So style sheets have all of this information. So, for example, what font should a paragraph have? Well, if you go and look at the style sheet, you'll find, what font, what size, all of that information in there. That goes true with the background, with the header, anything that's not specified specifically. Bootstrap has given us kind of default options. If you're trying to push this into a production kind of scenario, you obviously don't want to just load it from Bootstrap CDN. You want to make sure that you have a copy of this CSS style sheet on your own server, wherever you're hosting it. So you would be referencing your own style sheet, your own location at least, instead of Bootstrap CDN. Over here, I also have, am referencing Google's Google fonts. So Orbitron, that cool looking font that I am starting to turn against. I really liked it yesterday, but today not so much. But yes, this is where we have, sorry, it's all the way down here that we're being used, that's being used. So font family, Orbitron. Title, just something for the web browser to know what to put up here. So that's the head. The body of the HTML is where all of the work happens. I have up top modal. I think this is standard practice. You put the modal right up front. The modal is this pop-up. So you'll see that for the modal, let's open this up. It starts tab index -1. It starts behind everything. We have a dialogue, content header. All of these classes are being handled by Bootstrap to give it, the nice rounded corners, the lines, the close buttons, the background color. All of that default is Bootstrap. So they have a certain way of doing it. I have, of course, the name and the date. I'll show you how it goes dynamic afterwards in the script section, but we have a close button in the, this close button refers to this over here. This might be better. Okay, over here we have the body, so of course the image, the text over here. I have put in the copyright information down on the bottom right with small muted class, small tag, muted class. And then of course you have the footer and the close button. The copyright maybe even goes here. Not sure how I feel about that, but I think it looks fine for now. Now that the modal is done, we get into this area. So container fluid fills all of it, all of your screen left and right. So if we took out the container, the fluid part of the container, it kind of limits itself to the center. I'm not sure why Bootstrap does that by default. I really don't understand why you would waste space like that. So I use the fluid to fill up the width. Over here we have, to start off with, a title, Astronomy Picture of the Day. We have our first row. So the container goes row by row by row. So we have one row, second row, third row, fourth row. This center row is obviously bigger than all of the rest. The second row is over here. I have done a date picker, and you'll see that we just put in an input and the type date. And depending on the browser, this part looks different. So I'm using Edge right now. You'll see me use Chrome from time to time, but if you were on a phone, you might have like the scrolling buttons instead of a calendar. But basically this lets the web browser handle it. All it's trying to ask for is a date in return. We have the button to show the picture. We have a pop-up that says, please specify a date. Over here, the next row is where all of our images go. It's called photo list. I set an ID here, and there's nothing in it because it's all dynamically generated based on the API. Finally, the last row is just a button that says load more. Now, where all of this dynamic generation happens is after the after the body. I think HTML should actually come after. Let's make sure I didn't break anything. Yeah. Okay, so the first few scripts are imports necessary for Bootstrap. So you'll see Bootstrap has a few, has its default kind of JavaScript text, JavaScript scripts, and Popper. Those all help for things like the modal. They have, sorry, it's not the modal. This is modal. So all of the effects of bringing that up to the forefront, all of that JavaScript, Bootstrap has already handled it. So that's why I love it so much. It makes it much quicker. You didn't have to build a modal from scratch. I mean, it's certainly possible, but the animation of it coming back up, and down, and fading in and out, if I was trying to program it from scratch, it would just be hidden or visible. There's none of this fancy kind of slide in and out. And Bootstrap, as we've seen before, has so many different features, from the headers to footers to sidebars. They handle all sorts of things. jQuery is another really useful tool. It's being phased out everywhere because it's kind of a big file for what it does, but the tools are so incredibly helpful. A lot of the code down here uses jQuery just to make it simpler. So jQuery has functions to make it easier to change attributes, to attach click functions onto certain elements. And of course, the big one here, why I wanted it is much easier to do an API call with jQuery. It's just so much shorter than plain JavaScript. But a lot of people will say that this is big file. It's not worth it. If you want your computer or your web page to load and download quicker, you don't necessarily want this. We go down. Now, this last script is what I wrote. I just put down some API samples for my own reference. It's just helpful. I'd probably delete that in production, but if I'm going to put this up on GitHub or something, this is useful to know how the structure looks like when NASA gives data back to us. We know that videos have a copyright date, title, URL, it uses Vimeo, very kind of useful information embedded in there. I set up a date right off the bat. Date is really important in how we do this. We're walking the date one day back at a time, and so it is I normally wouldn't put something like that right up front, but it's the central feature of this web page. I created two functions, Append Images. So this is just attaching one. You can't really see my hand gestures, but it is attaching one picture at a time to this photo list. And so every time you attach a photo, it adds to the end of that list, and so one at a time. And so I have set number of images. So that oh, I see. I don't think it needed to be 17. The design was that 15 means that you would attach 15 images. Some dates, of course, had videos, which to make this project go quicker and simpler, I've just ignored videos entirely. Once we start calling it, once we call this Append Images function, we start walking back the date. One at a time, every image, we walk it back one day. And so the date up here gets updated. We set the date to 1 day backwards. Over here, of course, we have our URL. And if you guys think, oh yeah, the API key is up here, I'm gonna be removing that shortly after. So NASA's really super simple to get an API key. It's not like you had to do anything. You just put in your email and they send you a key. So there's nothing particularly special about this. Anyways, we had that URL for the API call. We have to pass in a date and an API key, and then what you get is one of these answers. So to make that call, we used something from jQuery, an Ajax async function. We pass in the URL, we tell it we're doing a get instead of a post operation. So we're getting data from the API. The response is in the form of a JSON. The data input is what we have here, the date and the API key. So for each image, we make this a new call. So we got a call for each day we want. And then over here, when we have a success function, we are just pulling all of that data, giving it a variable. And over here, if it's an image, then I start creating this new piece. this block here. So you'll see that it's an image, and then I attach it to the back of a card, and then that card gets added into a column. And then finally, that column gets inserted into the photo list. This is all jQuery. JavaScript can certainly do it, but they have kind of longer method names. It's not as clean and obvious, so it just looks very messy. So you want some sort of framework. jQuery will just do fine. So again, the append function is much more painful, well, much less readable in my opinion than on jQuery. And finally, I attach this click feature. So I was trying to add an on-click to the image itself, but jQuery just makes it easy. You just attach it after the fact, and that pops up the modal. When you click, you run this function show modal, which is the next function. Show modal attaches a date string. Ingests a date string as an input, and then it runs that call all over again and gets one image and updates this page. It's not the most efficient way. The most efficient way would probably be to somehow cache this information, but I think this is just an easy method to show something usable. So we do the same thing. I copy and paste it above. There's just a bit of changes here and there. And then finally we update not the list, of course, but the modal. So all of that templated text and images, I switched it over to the relevant date. Finally, after we define these functions, I start this off by loading 15 images when you load the web page. And finally, over here is the code to make sure this part works. So how this works is that I've attached a click function to this button. And from this, if there is a valid value, a valid date here, bring that in the future, but over here, we click it and then it just runs the show modal with the right date, with the date you've selected here. And that's basically it. It took a little bit of time, but we have something very functional here. One of the things that I was looking at before was one of those auto load web pages, and when I was talking to a friend about it, they said how much they hated it to just auto load every time you're at the end of the page. But there's definitely JavaScript libraries to help you do that, where as you scroll, it'll just load 5 more and load 5 more instead of this button to click. But apparently, a lot of people don't like that, so we'll stick with the button. And yeah, that's it. There's so much room for you to make this look better. You may want to tweak the borders to a better color. You may want to use different colors. But for me, I kind of like this minimal flat design. You want the focus on these pictures. And yeah, it is it's very easy to build something as a single web page application. So thanks for watching. We will be building something new next time. I am really excited. I have so many ideas that I want to build, and I think the next thing we're going to try and work on is something further on the back end. So maybe something with Azure or AWS, because we've been working with APIs for a while. Let's try, well, I'm thinking of trying to build my own API to do something. Don't know what it is, but definitely subscribe to the video. Subscribe to the channel, or like the video, or just keep an eye out for the next one. Thanks for watching.